Hello, everybody, and I am delighted today to be joined by Aaron Maher from GAA Fan TV, and we're going to talk through the league campaign for Zone County Dublin in both the football and the hurling, and then we'll touch on about the whole championship in general, previewing who's going to lift all the provincial trophies, and eventually who's going to be taking home Sam and Liam. Um, now, so we'll start with the footballers. What would your thoughts be on the league campaign so far? On the league campaign just passed.
Yeah, I think we it's an interesting one with Dublin in particular. Like it was the same in last season as well in the league. Like Dublin they always kind of treat the league kind of in second gear. They're kind of going through the motions. They're not playing at their absolute best, not playing to their full potential. Stephen Cluxton just doesn't seem to play in the league anymore. Dean Rock was completely rested. There was loads of changes, new lads coming into the team. But considering all the changes we made, we still beat Galway, beat yourselves, Donegal as well. Beat or drew with Kerry, obviously, and Kerry are supposed to be the greatest team, to challenge the Dubs, and yet we still drew with them. So, like, definitely I've been impressed, like, especially because I suppose the only thing you can really pick apart with Dublin is obviously looking at some of the new players that have come through, and Sean McMahon and Paulo Kofic Byrne look like two good players, especially like Sean McMahon, a cornerback, and Cormac Costello, obviously he's plays for Whitehall, it's the same areas where I'm from. Like he's been a player for years. I think a lot of people have been wondering, is he gonna because he always has the potential, and coming off the bench, you can tell he's a top class player. But it was gonna be, could he kick on and nail down a starting position in the 15? And it looks like he's doing so. So yeah, it's kind of how it always is with Dublin. Like they'll probably take Leinster. They'll probably like peak by the time the Leinster final comes around, like you seen last year. By the time they played Meath in the Leinster final, they just went into a different level altogether, and I would suspect that would probably be the same again this year, unfortunately for Meath fans.
Well, yeah. So like as you say, it's second gear. Like so, they were experimenting a little bit. So I presume Costello would be the player that would have impressed you the most.
Yeah, Costello definitely would have been probably in the top two or top three players. Like even some of the new lads that came in, like Paulo Kofic Byrne, I thought was really, really impressive. Con O'Callaghan, as always, he's almost machine like at different times, the way he just goes around. And Kieran Kilkenny was brilliant at different stages as well, just like keeping things ticking over. So I'd say, yeah, definitely some of those lads, Kieran Kilkenny, Con O'Callaghan, was really impressive. And yeah, for even bringing Aaron Byrne off the bench as well was good when he got a goal, I think, in the Galway game. And Mick Fitzsimons actually probably deserves a shout out at the back, because it's mad. We're in an era at the moment where there probably isn't too many good defenders, but Mick Fitzsimons, I know for a fact, is a good defender, and I'd say he's a banker to get in the All-Star Team of the Year this year. I'm very, very confident.
Yeah, it was good to see a lot of young and kind of upcoming stars coming through. Like, but seeing with Evan Comfort and that other goalkeeper, forget his name there. Um,
Michael Shields.
yeah. Do you feel it's this year or next year? Because the last 10 years, or well, not maybe not 10 years, maybe that's a bit harsh on them. But the last 5 years, there's always seems to be this seasons like these conversations like, oh, it's going to be Cluxton's last year, going to be Cluxton's last year. It never really is. Like, so yeah, he's our own version of Buffon in the GA. But yeah, do you think they're maybe able to take that mantle you just said, or no? It's still Cluxton's time.
Yeah, like I was pretty sure Cluxton was going to retire at the end of the last. I just had a sneaky feeling he didn't. I think I read somewhere like there's some record or something that if he wins the Leinster Championship or something like that, he'll go down as like the most. He'll have won more trophies at senior level than anyone else in the history of the game across all different codes. So he could be waiting to do that, and then he could retire. So it could be this year, but I really don't know. Like like the way it's going, you'd have to feel that surely if it's not this year, it's next year that he'll, at the end of next season that he'll leave, because like obviously Michael Shields and Evan Comerford have been starting. They started all the games in the league this year, and pretty much the same last year with Evan Comerford. I think Cluxton might have played 1 or 2 games at the start of the league. So yeah, you'd have to imagine like at some point, surely, like, because he's not going to keep playing forever. Like, so surely over the next couple of years. But like you said, with goalkeepers, some goalkeepers go on to their mid-40s. So, you know, he could be around for a while yet.
Certainly be interesting. But like, yeah. So, look, how would you analyze the hurlers years? Obviously, maybe he's got results against the smaller teams. You would have expected one, like, but these are still come across as a little bit still off the pace compared to the bigger teams like Kilkenny.
Yeah, like I suppose at the moment, like with Dublin, it was from watching them at the start of the year, they just kind of seemed very like one-dimensional. It was just long balls into Eamon Dillon and a few of the other lads and just hoping for the best and see what happens. And Donald Burke was the man to carry Dublin. Like, it's kind of the same old story with Dublin, unfortunately, like in the hurling. Like, we'll push Kilkenny, we'll push Clare, we'll come close to beating them, and we'll give them a good run for their money. But ultimately, in the final, like 10 to 15 minutes, the other sides usually pull away, and water breaks probably aren't a big help in that either, because it allows teams like Clare and Kilkenny to regroup going into the final 15 minutes. Just like it probably helps Dublin in the football, to be fair, as well. So yeah, it hasn't really worked out as well as we would have hoped. To be fair, like, it has been good to see players like Ronan Hayes and Keane Boland looks like a really good player, actually. I seen him. I watched the Clare game, so he looks like a very impressive player. But yeah, like at the moment, I was speaking to a fellow Dublin fan earlier who's fairly confident that he feels that Antrim are going to beat Dublin in a few weeks' time, and I believe that game is actually in Navan and not in Park or anything like that, from what I've heard anyway. So that would be it's going to be very close to see what happens there, because if that is the case, like, I think Antrim will be licking their lips, and it wouldn't surprise me if they did turn us over, because it's kind of leaning towards that, to be honest.
Yeah, it'd be a wee bit mad, if you've Antrim and Galway playing each other in a Leinster semi-final, then would be that's strange. But yeah, obviously that's a tough one there. But do you feel, maybe, surely, do you think, is that a good sign of double hurling? That the aim every year seems to just be stay as a Division 1 team, and maybe never really push further, and maybe win a few leagues, and eventually, that will breed confidence, and you never know. Maybe first time since 1948 is might win Liam.
Yeah, well, I suppose, like, when you look at Dublin, and obviously, I mean, everyone kind of knows the resources and funding and everything else. Like, and I know football is the top dog and the top priority, but there's still a lot of work that's been done in hurling up and across Dublin. Like, you look at the development of so many clubs, like in hurling, and some of the players that are coming through. Like, so, Dublin really realistically should be up there challenging for a Leinster at least. Like, we shouldn't just be, trying to stay in Division 1 or trying to stay in the Leinster Championship. Like, Dublin really should be pushing on. But yeah, like, at the moment, with some of the other lads retiring and some of the younger players coming through, it's hard to see how Dublin can get up to that level, like, especially when you see the counties in Munster as well. Like, it's just, like, if you were to, you'd probably say, like, Dublin are probably like 9th or 10th in terms of the best teams in the country, and probably tied with Antrim at the moment. So yeah, like, I think the aim should always be to try and win Leinster, and then obviously the All Ireland. Like, yeah, because it was only like 7 years ago. We probably should have won it in 2013. So we definitely need to try and strive to get back to that.
And which one of the players, hurling in the league this year impressed you the most as a Dublin fan?
Yeah, you'd have to say Donald Burke. As always, like, he's been brilliant. But I think everyone kind of knows, like, the talent of Donald Burke. They obviously would have seen him last year, but like, especially in the Laois game and all the rest. But for me, I'd look at both Ronan Hayes and Keane Boland. I think Keane Boland in particular has been a breath of fresh air since he's come into the team. He's just added a different dimension, especially in attack. Like, especially when a lot of long balls were being floated into Eamon Dillon or Ronan Hayes or whoever it would be, he'd be the man to kind of get on the loose end of them and take the goal chances and all the rest. And yeah, he's been fantastic. And Dara Gray actually in defence at wing back has been brilliant as well. He's been impressive. So he's another one that I suppose deserves a special mention.
Yeah, all good teams, obviously, and look, but then you look at the league as a whole, like, but maybe what do you think? Maybe it's been the biggest surprising league in football or hurling. I think the events of the weekend, in the football, especially Division 3, might be the most shocking for me. Like, I thought they'd been playoffs, but actually going and getting relegated, the Munster and Ulster champions, to Division 4. I thought that was a little bit of a shock, but yeah.
Yeah, like that. Yeah, but for both of them, like, they said Cavan and Tip when they won their provincial titles on the same day, it was written in the stars, and I don't know if they're saying the same about the weekend. The fact they both go down to Division 4 on the same weekend, it's a bit mad. It kind of reminds me of the situation with Liverpool when they won the Premier a season later, just like absolutely terrible until they rescued the season, obviously, at the end. But yeah, like when you said on my podcast about Cavan and Tip being in those relegation playoffs, like, I definitely didn't think you were talking sense, to be perfectly honest. But I suppose having looked at them both go down, I mean, yeah, like, it was like, and like, because I watched the Tip Longford game back this morning actually, and like, Tipperary were never even in the lead throughout the game, throughout the entirety of the game. They never once went in front, and Cavan only led once in the Wicklow game. So, like, not only did they go down to Division 4, but they went down with absolute whimpers. Like, Longford beat Tip by like 5-6 points in the end. Like, it was comfortable, and it probably should have been more. So it's crazy what's after happening.
Yeah. If Roy Keane was a Gaelic football pundit, he would definitely call them two bad champions. But we'll move on now to championship previews, and starting with the football. The Connacht Championship, you've the two teams that got relegated from Division 1 competing. You've a team going up to Division 1, All Ireland champions last year as well, Mayo, and you've two Division 4 teams that never made their way into the promotion playoffs in Sligo and Leitrim. Who do you see maybe taking home the Connacht title?
Yeah, I think you'd have to look at Mayo, in all honesty. Like, it's probably the obvious choice, but I think it's probably the only choice, really. Like, Galway would probably make the final, in my opinion. I think they're better than Roscommon, and although they got relegated against Monaghan, they had that game within their grasp, and it's bad. Like, if they had come through Monaghan, they would have had a bit of confidence about themselves. They would have put not back-to-back wins together, but they would have put like a win over Roscommon and then a win over Monaghan, a win away as well, like in Clones, which is never an easy place to go. But obviously, we know what happened. That didn't happen. They threw it away in the end. So, a win over Roscommon will give them a bit of confidence going into Mayo, who, let's be honest, will comfortably beat Leitrim and Sligo. So, yeah, like with Mayo's attack and with how good they are going forward, and then looking at Galway's defence in the Kerry game, there's only one way really it could. Like, we could see a situation last year where Galway play defensive a bit like they did in the Connacht final last year, but you'd have to imagine Mayo would win the game. But if Cillian O'Connor is injured, I mean, that could hold Mayo back a bit. But yeah, you'd have to go with Mayo at this point. You really would.
Now, moving on to your own province, Leinster. Now, there's two Division 1 teams there. Like, so looking at the surface of it, you should actually be a stronger province than Munster or Connacht, who only have one Division 1 team in their province. But in reality, it is only really a one-horse race to Dublin, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you're trying to be Leinster here, but I try to be a bit generous towards Leinster. Like realistically, like I think 2016 or 2015 was the last time a team other than Dublin avoided relegation in Division 1 and actually stayed up there. So But yeah, like it would be a one horse race. And like what's interesting is they haven't even done the semi-final draw yet for the Leinster Championship. They're actually going to do that after the quarterfinals. It's as if they know that, like, because they know if they were to do the draw as normal, then counties would look at it and be like, "Oh, right, our journey is going to end here in this quarterfinal or whatever, or this semi-final." They haven't even done the draw yet because they don't want counties to know, because it's almost like they know that the Leinster Championship is already just completely broken, to be honest. But yeah, like Kildare have made a couple of strides, and fair play to them. Like they beat Meath. It was it wasn't really a game of much quality, to be perfectly honest. Meath have a lot of injuries, to be fair to them, but they never, like, they hit 6 points after like 56 minutes. Like it's the same old problems for Meath, unfortunately. So you could only see one winner in Dublin. And to be honest, depending on what way the draw goes, it wouldn't surprise me if a Westmeath or an Offaly sneaked into a Leinster final. It's not impossible.
Last November, funny enough, last November of the podcast, when Offaly got knocked out, Dave Dempsey was on it. He was telling me that the aim was quite simply to get out of Division 3, and the second aim was just have your fingers crossed you'll be on the other side of the draw to Dublin. But I'm sure that's what the other counties in Leinster were also thinking. But yeah, we'll move on to the province, which actually raised a lot of eyebrows last year. And I was, maybe I didn't enjoy it that much because I nearly expected Cork to get an egg, but it was brilliant to see Tipperary win their first Munster in 85 years. Like, but surely, you see Kerry in the league, and more importantly, not just them in the league, they have a lot of people to shut up. So, like, surely, Kerry might take Munster that a little bit more serious, and it's look, I'm sure Clare will put up a good fight after a good Division 2 season. But look, I just feel, surely it's only going to be Kerry that is realistically winning it this year.
Yeah, like absolutely. Like I think Kerry's toughest test might even come in the Clare game, to be honest. Having watched all the teams in the different divisions, so yeah, you'd have, like, Kerry are definitely really well placed at the moment. They've gotten better since that Cork game. There's no doubt about it, especially going forward. The defensive issues are still there, but as long as they don't go back into that defensive shell and all the rest, they should be okay. Because like when you play defensive as that, you always leave a chance for a Cork or a Clare to cause an upset. It was almost like they were inviting pressure onto them. So yeah, you'd have to go with Kerry. Like Cork are like steadily moving in the right direction, but they still have a couple of years to go yet. Still have a couple of players come back from injury, and Tipper are obviously massively struggling. You'd be surprised to see them do anything, although they're the type of county that raises their game against your Corks or your Kerry, so they could put in a good performance, but you'd be surprised to see them win at. And like Limerick might do something, you never know. Like Limerick, a good team, nearly got to Division 2, so I don't think they'll be a million miles away, against the likes of your, because I think Limerick might end up playing Cork, I think, in a semi-final or something like that. So it's not impossible that Limerick don't beat Cork. Like it's not a million miles away, but yeah, Kerry would definitely be the team for me. Like you couldn't bet against them.
Yeah, and now we move into my own province. So like you're allowed to pick Donegal, but there's 8 other counties. Only one of them getting relegated throughout the whole leagues. Like, so yeah. Which one are you backing to take the Anglo Celtic Cup home?
I actually think it's I still haven't made my mind up, to be perfectly honest, because it's such a hard one. But I have a sneaky feeling Armagh might do it. I really do, because like Donegal are on the hard. They're like, it's such a tough side. Like you'd have to beat Down, then you'd have to beat Derry, then Tyrone, then Armagh or Monaghan probably. Like that's like with the injuries that you have as well. Like I just think Donegal are going to slip up somewhere along the way, and I don't think they're going to win it personally. Like, and I don't think Tyrone are there just yet. Like they could still get things right. They could still be thereabouts. Like we don't know what the status is with Cathal McShane, and I think Armagh have been trending in a good direction. They've shown a lot of promise this year. They have 1 or 2 players come back from injury, but they don't have the same injuries as everyone else. So I don't know, like it could easily be Monaghan as well, but I just don't trust Monaghan, to be honest. Like they just always seem to
Yeah.
like anytime you root for them, they lose, and anytime you bet against them, they win. So to be honest, I don't really know. I haven't really fully made my mind up right now, but I think I have a funny feeling that Armagh are going to be the team to sneak it, because I think like they'll have a lot of momentum if they get to an Ulster final, and I just think that they'd really fancy their chances against either a Donegal or Tyrone that I don't think look the same as they did last year.
Yeah. I kind of agree in the sense that probably more the fact that Donegal or Tyrone would have to peak because our side is so tough, or even even Cavan or Down may cause an upset. Like, but Division 4 Cavan, it's hard to really see them doing it again. Like, but whatever, but if they peak at that level, in Armagh, I'm sure they'll take the Monaghan and Antrim game serious, or even Fermanagh, who are always capable of an upset. But yeah, I feel that's the. But yeah, moving to hurling now, and we've got, when it comes to the small ball, the Leinster Championship is actually competitive. So yeah, obviously, Kilkenny will want to retain it, and Galway definitely ran them close and looked really good last year, and are certainly improving. And obviously, there's yourselves, and Antrim will be a fantastic condition. Now, I don't think they're winning it just yet, but there'll be plenty of others. But who do you see, maybe becoming the top dogs in Leinster this year?
Probably Galway, I'd say. I think Galway will probably have too much for Kilkenny or Wexford or Dublin or Antrim. Like I think they've definitely been moving in the right direction in their league form. Like bring Evan Noylan into the team, Jarlath Mannion, Cathal Mannion's back fit, David and Daithí Burke are fully fit, Joe Cannon's into midfield and looking brilliant. So yeah, I'd have to say Galway. To be honest, I think Galway are looking just a cut above. You certainly wouldn't rule out Kilkenny. They've looked very good in the league at different stages. And you wonder, like under Brian Cody, he's kind of overseeing these like new young players that are coming into the team. So you wonder, like, could this be the year that they make a breakthrough in terms of an All-Ireland? Because I think a lot of people had them beating Waterford in the semi-final and at least getting to a final, and they beat Limerick 2 years ago in 2019. So you definitely couldn't discount Kilkenny. I think Galway and play either the winner of Wexford, I think, or something like that. So I think it'll be Galway, Kilkenny probably in the final of the Leinster Championship. But I think Galway will have too much, and they'll be able to get the victory.
Yeah. That's obviously a big task whoever gets to win it. Like, but then the Munster Championship, you've the two previous All Ireland winners. Obviously big rivals themselves in their own right. Never mind just the recent success, and there's also plenty of others. You've the All Ireland finalists. You also have Cork, who always have the potential to win an All Ireland. But maybe similar to the Mayo footballers. Hype always seems to maybe buy into them somehow, and there's also Clare may struggle a bit in the league, like, but that one against Kilkenny showing that there's still a bit of fire in the bellies of Clare. So like, who do you see becoming the champions in the south?
Yeah, like it's such a difficult one to call, because you can really make a case for any of the five counties down there. Like I have a funny feeling it might be Tipperary, just because I actually think Cork are going to beat Limerick and in the first day in the Munster Championship, just because Cork have quite a decent record against Limerick in the Munster Championship in recent seasons, and I've a sneaky feeling they're going to turn Limerick over, because I don't think Cork played anywhere near their absolute best when they played Limerick in the league, and I just have a funny feeling they're going to turn them over. I think with their goal threat, I think they're going to play at 110%, and I think with Limerick, like with John Coyley, he's still trying a few different things out. He's still testing different players out. I just don't think they'll be up to full speed yet, and I could see Cork turning them over. But I think with Cork, like they're a bit like the same in football, where they'll cause a block and they'll get a big win, but then the next week they'll go out and be beaten. And when you start to back them and think that they actually might kick on, they kind of tend to go backwards. So that's kind of why I think Tipperary would beat them, because I think if Tipperary were playing Cork in a Munster final, I think they'd they'd go into that fancying their chances, and I think they'd know it's a massive opportunity to win a Munster title. And I think what the thing is as well, like they've young lads coming through, but their general starting 15 is quite aging. So I think for Liam Sheedy, I think they're going to go all out this year, and I reckon they'll win the Munster title.
No, in football, by your logic, it's going to be a choice of Armagh, Dublin, Kerry, or Mayo to win the All Ireland. And in the hurling, if you don't win your provincial championship, it's not the end of the championship. Like, so there's still a backdoor system in place. Like, so which two counties do you see being crowned the All Ireland champions for this year?
Yeah, well, I suppose for football, first of all, I'm going to back Dublin for this one. I chose Kerry last year, and the watch now it'll probably come back to bite me, and this will be the year that Kerry actually win it. But I just think Dublin will have a bit too much. I think I suppose both counties have the luxury of maybe not being at 110% in their own province and still pulling through, although Kerry probably that didn't work for them last year. So I just think Dublin will have too much. I think they still have Dean Rock to come back and a few other players as well. Brian Fenton and James McCarthy. Like we've a much better midfield, we've a better defence than them. And our Kerry's attack is better, but it's only just a bit better. Like it's not a million miles better or anything like that. And like if Kerry, like obviously Kerry are scoring 5-6 goals against Tyrone, and they're creating so many goal chances, and they're getting so many men forward. But if they play like that against Dublin, like Dublin will just pick them apart defensively. So Kerry can't play like that. Otherwise they'll just get beaten. They'll concede loads of goals themselves. So I could see Dublin just about edging it, to be perfectly honest. Do think it will be Kerry in the final. I can't see Mayo doing anything in a semi-final against the Dubs, in all honesty. And I suppose for the Ulster, for whoever comes through Ulster, I couldn't see them beating Kerry, in all honesty. And then I suppose for the hurling, yeah, like it's such a tough one to call. Like with Limerick, like you could see them being beaten by Cork and then rallying and coming back and maybe making a final. But with Kilkenny and Galway, like they're always kind of very, very close. So it's a hard one to call, but I'd probably at this stage maybe go with Tipperary. I just have a sneaky feeling that with their old players, they're going to really rally. And yeah, I've a funny feeling that Tipperary are going to win it.
Yeah, obviously, very important. But yeah. So before we go, last year you had a good stream of content and a good bulk of looking at different fans and your own views and even a few players here and there, around championship. Like so, would it be the same plans for this year, or is there a few tweaks and a few for this year's championship for your coverage?
Yeah, like it's more or less similar, more or less the kind of same thing. I suppose I've started doing more things live now as well. I've started doing more like live reactions and different things, just because it's well, number one, you don't need to edit the video after, so it makes life a lot easier. And then I suppose as well, like for people leaving comments, you get to interact and whatnot. So yeah, like it's been more or less the same. And yeah, as always, trying to cover as many games as possible and get as many fans on after the games. And yeah, just trying to make the most out of the league and championship being back, because I think by the time next month comes around, we'll be talking about, the provincial championships will nearly be over. So like, it's before we know it'll be over. So we might as well make the most of it. And that's kind of what I've been doing, is just trying to interview as many people as possible, watch as many games as possible, and enjoy it while it lasts.
Yeah, obviously, very good. Like, great pleasure to have you on the podcast, Aaron. Yeah.
No bother. Sounds. Cheers for having me.